4 tools that let one platform play games and run software designed for another. One is funded by a company whose owner called the dominant operating system a catastrophe and needed an escape route. One was built by a developer who created the most ambitious game manager on the platform and got distracted by a startup. One was built because a company worth hundreds of billions refused to release a client for its own store. One was built to make a 33-year-old compatibility layer usable without a terminal, and then went 6 months without an update. The corporate project runs 80% of the largest store's library. The ambitious project deleted save files. The store launcher broke every game overnight. The front end has had a setup bug for over a year. 4 tools. The platform needs all of them and none of them are finished. The corporate project exists because the owner of the largest digital game store feared a walled garden that could lock his company out. The first attempt was a hardware line with native support for a fraction of the library. It failed. The second attempt funded a decades-old open-source compatibility layer, hired the developer who created the graphics translation component, contracted the commercial firm that employs many of the base project's core contributors, and started shipping game-specific patches. The handheld device launched in 2022 made it the foundation of a hardware product with millions of units sold. 80% of the store's catalog now works without configuration. The biggest competitive multiplayer titles are blocked because developers refuse to enable anti-cheat support that technically already works. Systems using one major graphics vendor's open-source driver achieve near-native performance. Systems using the other vendor's proprietary driver lose up to 45% in titles using the newest graphics standard. Every update improves dozens of games and breaks a handful. A community fork maintained by one person is frequently recommended over the official version. Early versions had a documented save game synchronization problem where the fake environment used different file paths and the cloud service expected the real ones. Users lost hours of progress. The issue was largely resolved, but edge cases remain. Modding support ranges from functional after manual configuration to impossible, depending on whether the modifications require system access the translation cannot provide. The project's success has reduced native development for the platform because the translation is considered good enough. The ambitious project began around 2009 when a French developer wanted one launcher to manage every game on the platform. The core innovation was community-maintained installation scripts that automated setup for thousands of titles across compatibility layers, emulators, classic engines, and native builds. The runner system supported a breadth nothing else matched. Emulators for retro consoles, interpreters for classic game engines, the compatibility layer in multiple versions, and native builds all ran through one interface. The sandboxed packaging format created a persistent category of launch failures, where runners went undetected and error messages were too vague for the non-technical users most likely to encounter them. The golden period came after 2018, when the corporate project made compatibility gaming mainstream, and this project became the primary front end for everything outside the largest store. Then the developer became involved with a funded startup building a competing gaming device. Releases slowed, abandonment threads appeared, a version was tagged and pulled without release. The replacement that shipped in February 2026 migrated the runtime and deleted compatibility layer environments containing save data for a subset of users. The same update was partly written with an artificial intelligence tool whose use was disclosed and then hidden after backlash. The community started recommending the other 2 community tools for tasks this project used to own. The installation script database remains irreplaceable. The launcher around it is the part that has been breaking. The store launcher was built in 2020 because the largest competing game store gives away titles every week and will not build a client for the platform. It manages libraries across 3 stores through a single interface using reverse-engineered access. The back-end was rewritten for performance. Each title can use a different compatibility tool. The weekly free game program drove adoption more than any feature the project built. The store tolerates the project because every title claimed still generates revenue. Downloads run slower than the official client. The framework bundles a web browser engine using 200 to 400 megabytes before a game launches. A sandboxed packaging update in late January 2026 broke every game overnight with silent crashes and no logs. The launcher does not integrate with the handheld device's primary interface and runs only in its desktop mode. Games installed through it require manual addition to the device's native store as non-store shortcuts. a process that is fragile across updates. The project has no revenue, no paid developers, and no succession plan. The open license means the community could fork it, but the institutional knowledge of 3 reverse-engineered store interfaces and their authentication systems would be difficult to replicate. The front end was built to make the oldest tool in the stack approachable. Each application runs inside an isolated environment with its own registry, libraries, and configuration. Templates pre-configure environments for gaming or productivity. The interface is built on the largest desktop environments design framework. The project committed to sandboxed packaging as its primary distribution method and actively discourages distributions from packaging it in their repositories, arguing that lagging versions generate false bug reports. The dispute escalated over 2 years with developers calling out specific distributions by name. In July 2025, the project went 6 months without a significant commit. A contributor publicly stated they had lost confidence. The rewrite had stalled. Development resumed in November 2025 with modern display support and dropped user tracking. The first run setup has been broken since February 2025, causing the launcher to hang during configuration on every launch with no clean fix. The underlying compatibility layer itself is the one component none of the 4 projects need to worry about losing. It has been maintained by the same person for over 30 years, funded by a commercial company that sells a supported version, and will continue regardless of what happens to any front-end built on top of it. The 11th major version added kernel-level synchronization that measurably improves threading performance. The commercial version released in February 2026. Every annual release improves dozens of applications and breaks a handful of others. The compatibility database rates thousands of applications honestly. The foundation is stall, the interfaces are the fragile parts. Proton, for anyone whose games come from the largest store, where 80% works without configuration, the handheld device made the platform mainstream and corporate funding continues while the hardware sells, accepting that the biggest competitive titles are blocked by developer refusal. The proprietary graphics vendor performs worse. Every update risks breaking games, and native development has declined because the translation is considered sufficient. Lutris, for anyone who needs the broadest game management tool on the platform, where the installation script database covers thousands of titles across compatibility layers, emulators, and native builds that no alternative matches, accepting that the developer's attention is divided. A 2026 update deleted save data. The same update used hidden artificial intelligence code, and the community is recommending alternatives. Heroic for anyone whose games come from the competing store, the copy protection free store, or the subscription service, where 3 stores in one interface fills a gap nothing else covers, accepting slower downloads, a packaging update that broke everything overnight, browser engine overhead, and a store that tolerates the project without supporting it. Bottles and wine for anyone who needs isolated environments for applications beyond gaming, where 33 years of compatibility development and the cleanest front end provide the deepest translation available, accepting a first-run bug unresolved for over a year, a distro packaging dispute, a 6-month development gap, and a sandboxed format that causes the problems new users hit most. 4 tools built on the same foundation, 1 funded, 3 running on volunteer hours and borrowed time. Every choice is a trade-off. At least now you know what you're trading.